GVS fan says also 1.5% of supply is very low compared to Mina, who allocated 6%. The difference here, GVS, is that we're doing a proof of work launch, right? So Mina and any proof of stake project has to do a very large initial distribution to community if they want to get any token members to the community at all, because that's how proof of stake works. You have a certain amount of coins, and then whatever the initial distribution of those coins are, roughly speaking, that kind of dictates what the distribution is going to look like in general. But when you have a proof of work coin where as I was just saying, like anyone with like a fairly powerful computer can mine, they are all going to have equal access to getting the tokens in the first place. So this like 1.5, it's you shouldn't look at it as being that kind of thing. This is basically just for the incentivized testnet to try to incentivize people to harden the network as much as possible. And then what the community allocation is going to look like is going to be, all of you guys out there mining yourselves. And that amount, I can only imagine, is going to be far larger than 6%, especially because, as Howard said on an earlier call, we're actually targeting a pretty aggressive inflation rate for the first little bit, specifically to try to benefit early miners. So yeah, that's I think a good way of thinking about that.
Cool, thanks for that, Sam. Yeah, let's I'm sure people are going to start piling in questions. So let's maybe let people get those down, and then at the end when we open up the AMA, we can maybe reiterate some of the points you just said and then also cover new questions. So but yeah, thank you for that. I think that's really informative. So yeah, just to get started, wanted to just thank everybody for joining this call. We're super excited to share some details about the upcoming Incentivized Testnet. I know a lot of you have been participating and running a node during this calibration period for Testnet 2, so we really appreciate that. And today, in addition to talking about the Incentivized Testnet, we're going to go through some other topics related to the project, specifically the setup ceremony. I know there were some questions there, as well as some general information. So yeah, I think that's kind of how we'll conduct this call. Those of you that are new here, currently we're in the Aleo assembly voice channel. If you look on the left-hand side of your screen in the sidebar, you'll see right above this channel, there's a text channel called Paul's Q&A. If you have any questions during the presentation, you can feel free to type them in there, and then at the end, when we open up the AMA session, we'll run through those questions and try to answer them for you. Alternatively, when we get to the AMA session, if you want to come up on stage and verbalize your answers and speak, you can do so by raising your hand. There should be a button at the bottom of your screen here in this channel to do so. And then the one last thing is we do have a slide deck that we'll be running through. Unfortunately, Discord stage functionality does not allow for video, so I can't share it with you live as I'm going through. But if you go in the calls Q&A text channel, I did post a link to the slide deck there, so feel free to follow along, and I will just let you know what slide number we're on as we go through. So without further ado, I think we can get started here. So I'm now on slide 2 if you're following along with the deck. This is just going over our agenda. So yeah, we'll introduce some of the members of the team that are here, go over some metrics on community engagement, give some general engineering updates, talk a little bit about our community grants and feature bounties program, go over some points about the setup ceremony, and then spend most of the time on the incentivized testnet and allowing for questions. So now I'll go into slide 3. Maybe we can just do some very, very brief intros. I'm Anthony. Most of you have probably seen me on the Discord. I help with strategy and growth. And yeah, just really excited to get you all on board within the network and share some of the interesting things we've been working on. Sam, you want to go next real quick? Or you're muted if you're trying to talk.
Yeah, sorry, I had to step away for a second. What did you say there, Anthony?
Just intro yourself really quickly.
Oh yeah, hey guys, I'm Sam. I help Anthony with a lot of things regarding to community and growth, and I also PM one or two things on the back end. Recently, something cool related to identity that I'm still fingers crossed hoping is going to be out in time for the incentivized testnet, and we might even be able to use it for some of the cool leaderboard community tracking things that I'm sure we're going to mention today.
Awesome. Nisei, you want to go really quickly?
say. I do my best to support Anthony and Sam best I can on the administrative side.
Awesome. Rike?
Hi, everyone. So my name is Rike. I am heading up, VP of Design, so taking care of all our product design, UI, UX, and branding. Feel free to ping me if you have any questions. I'm happy to be here in this call.
Awesome. And Howard?
Hey, this is Howard. I'm one of the co-founders and working hard to get ZK out there into the world for everyone.
Great. And then I think we have a few other team members in the audience, but yeah, we'll just be listening in. Cool. So now we're moving on to slide 4. So just going over some community engagement metrics. So right now we have 7.5 or 7,500 verified community members on Discord. Verified just means they went through our caption. They're not a bot. So these are like active individuals in our community. So that's up 32% over the past 3 weeks, which I think is pretty good. Another thing I wanted to point out is that we're sponsoring ZK Hack. If you want to participate, you can simply visit their website. We have the link here. And Aleo in particular will be hosting a workshop on December 1st. And one of our developer relations colleagues, Errol, who some of you probably know from the ZK salons, will be presenting the workshop. And if you want to register, I also put this hopin.com link on the slide. So yeah, highly encourage people to participate in that workshop if you want to learn more about the project. Also, Errol recently published a blog post on the Powers of Tau MPC ceremony. So if you were on the last ZK salon, we actually went through this kind of a ceremony in detail on how it relates to our project, but would be really cool to read up on that post if you have a chance. That's also linked. Our team successfully, had a trip or a successful trip in Lisbon for ETH Lisbon, BlizzCon, and Solana Breakpoint. I had the opportunity to debate on a panel with a few folks in the industry around scaling and the censorship resistance threshold. So if you want to check that out and kind of get a feel for how Aleo is sort of approaching this topic, I think that would be really interesting. And then, last 2 things really quickly. So the ambassadors program, I know a lot of people have been waiting for this. That will be launched on November 30th. And a blog post will go out beforehand detailing more aspects of that. And then the other thing is we're restarting the Leo programming contest. Those will also go out around November 30th. And shout out to our community member, King Super, for helping to put together some of those new contests. And then moving on to slide 5, just going over some changes to our calendar. So one thing that's not changed is the Zero Knowledge Salons are still every Monday, 12:30 to 1:30 Eastern. If you have new topics or ideas for these calls, feel free to fill out the form I've linked. The Snark OS stand-ups, they used to happen every Thursday. We're actually rescheduling the time and frequency in which we'll have those calls. Howard is now leading the Snark OS team, so we're actively trying to figure out what's going to be the new cadence for that, but just wanted to let people know. And then moving forward, the Leo stand-ups will not be having a live session. Instead, it was determined from the Leo team that we were going to just have an internal stand-up and the notes would be published on Discord following those calls. So more details on that. But as we publish those notes, you can definitely ask questions and we'll make sure to get back to you about anything related to Leo. Then, our community calls will still be happening every 3 weeks on Wednesday. Maybe I'll up the frequency since we're not having these technical stand-ups, but TBD. And then another thing is, so Aleo will be sponsoring ETH Denver. So if you're in the US, you should come meet us up in person. We'll be doing a lot of interesting things there. Still planning out exactly, how we will be contributing during the conference, but that will be happening February 11th to 20th. So just wanted to put that on your radar. And then definitely follow our community calendar, which is also linked here. Okay, so now moving on to slide 6, some engineering updates. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I think a lot of it has to do with Snark OS, which will be covered in relation to the Incentivized Testnet, but just at a high level, maybe starting with Leo. So current release of Leo is version 1.5.3. Just make sure you're using that. We also have a plugin for VS Code, and we also have Leo support for Sublime's LSP plugin. So if you weren't aware, those are out there. Then there's a few other points in here. We've made improvements to Leo Parser and are working on a few other interesting things here. So if you want to read through those points, feel free. In terms of Snark OS, current release is version 1.3.17, so make sure that's what you're running. Obviously, if you're participating in our calibration period on testnet 2, hopefully that's the case. And if you need instructions on running a node for the calibration period or just the testnet in general, make sure to view the instructions on the SnarkOS GitHub page, which is also linked here. So moving on to slide 7. So the Feature Bounties program, a lot of you are probably aware that this is already out here, but just wanted to point it out again. So basically, we create this program to help develop new features for Leo. And if you're interested in claiming a bounty, you can actually check out our list of features on the Leo GitHub repo, which I've linked. Also, if you have any ideas for new feature bounties, please let us know by submitting a proposal in the Leo GitHub repo. You can do that by following the instructions that I've linked here as well. And then also our engineering team has already begun flagging specific features. So again, they're listed on there. Anybody can attempt to implement a feature bounty and claim it. We've actually already had a few community members claim some feature bounties. So that's definitely a very great opportunity if you want to get more involved with the project. And then there's also a blog post that's on the Aleo wiki. I think we're trying to get that to our official blog, but for now you can read it there. And I've also provided a link. And then just quickly on pricing for those, like we set prices based on how complex we think it'll be to implement the feature, but we can always negotiate that if it ends up being more work. Okay, then moving on to slide 8. So the community grants program, again, this is separated from the features bounty, but the funding that we use for both the feature bounties and the grants program come from the same pool. And basically, yeah, we launched the program back in June, but since then it's gone through a lot of changes. Essentially now it's much more broad in scope, and we're not really doing the whole bucketed system, which was the case before. So if you want to submit an application, I've included the link here. I'm really trying to push to get as many applications approved as possible that are, high quality before the end of the year. So I think this is a really great opportunity for you to submit something if you haven't already. If you're somebody that has submitted and hasn't heard back from us, I will be reaching out to you within the next few weeks. So please be patient on that front. But again, I think we're really trying to push to at least get some kind of smaller scale, ideas and use cases out there through this grants program. And yeah, if you want to learn more details about this, again, just read the Feature Bounties blog post. It also contains information about how we're looking at the grants program moving forward. One thing I will emphasize is that if you're somebody who's interested in translations, doing like educational content, blog posts, stuff like that, wait for the ambassadors program, because moving forward, those kinds of engagements from the community will be funneled through that program. And like I said, we'll be putting out more details about that relatively soon. Okay, so moving on to the setup ceremony, definitely want to touch on this because it's still actively going, and I know people had some questions. So at a high level, I think most of you probably know what the setup ceremony is. If not, I've linked a few blog posts here to read. But basically, the thing that should be noted is all the ceremonies will be will last until December 15th. This has actually been extended. So originally it was December 1st, now it's December 15th. And yeah, Universal and Outer setup have been going. Universal since August 16th, Outer since September 20th, and the Inner setup launched on November 1st and is currently running only if you want to make a contribution to the command line interface. I'll be sharing more details about the browser in a future slide, but if you want to contribute via the command line interface, you can simply go to our website for the Inner setup and go ahead and do that. And just as a reminder, if you participate in any of the 3, you will receive a commemorative NFT. So you don't have to worry about, if you missed one or another. As long as you contributed to one, you'll get the NFT. So you don't have to stress about that. And then slide 10, this is just showing you like what the page looks like for people that aren't aware, but basically you can see here, just select the current ceremony that you want to, the ceremony you want to participate in, and there will be very clear instructions for you to follow. Slide 11, so just wanted to give some stats. So we currently have 1,753 contributions across all 3 setups so far. And we now officially have the record for the most contributions of any setup ceremony, which I think is a really wonderful achievement, and we're super proud of it. We want to continue to get that number up until December 15th, obviously, but I think it's just a testament to all the great contributions that everybody in this community has made, and we're super grateful for your efforts on that front. I think, setup ceremony is, the prerequisite to launching mainnet, and so it's super important. And yeah, you're basically now a part of something really, really great. And so moving on to slide 12. So just going over the universal setup ceremony specifically. Again, I've said this a million times, but just want to reiterate it here. It is closed. I'm not taking any more submissions for it. We had over 600. So we're still processing through those folks that registered. If you haven't heard from us, we will reach out at some point. Again, I really can't give you a exact timeline because it all depends on, if we run into issues or how long it's taking to make a contribution. But, we are staying on top of that list, and we will try to get through as many people as possible. There has been some talk about maybe even like extending the universal during phase 2 of our setup ceremony, but that's still more hearsay. But if anything changes on that front, we'll definitely let you know. And just for some context, if you are selected, we will reach out on Discord. You'll be added to a private channel that's only visible to folks that are making contribution to the universal setup. And in here, you will find all the instructions and also be able to ask questions to our engineering team. So moving on to slide 13. So for the outer setup, this is actively running. You can contribute via the command line if you want. Again, just navigate to our website and click on the contribute button for the outer setup. There's a walkthrough video that I posted. So, if there's any confusion, you can watch the video. You can also, read our instructions. The one thing I would say is that if you're contributing from source, again, I've said this before, but just want to reiterate, you need to delete your first key pair. The first key pair is actually considered toxic waste. And again, there's instructions on how to do that. You can delete it by running a command or manually doing it. But again, just wanted to point that out. And then there will be a second key pair that's generated after you make your contribution. That key pair you want to save. So you actually want to save the public key, which is like your Aleo wallet address, and the private key, which is what we call like your confirmation key in this case. So just make sure you save that somewhere secure, regardless if you're contributing from Docker or from source. You always want to save it. Again, you only need to delete the first key pair if you're contributing from source. From Docker, it's done automatically. And if you have any questions, you can ask them in the setup ceremony channel in our Discord server. If you're curious where you stand in the queue, you can check our status page to see where you are. Okay, so moving on to slide 14. So, okay, this is probably the most relevant for people since it's the most recent update to the setup ceremony in general. But so for the inner ceremony, right now, only the CLI version of the inner setup is active, right, which launched on November 1st. So again, if you go to the website, you can contribute via the CLI just like you would contribute via the CLI for the outer and universal setups. The instructions are nearly identical. You're just changing basically the URL there. Starting December 1st, we will allow people to contribute via the browser. For those that aren't familiar with what does it mean between contributing with the browser versus contributing with the CLI, basically CLI, you're opening up your terminal, writing some code, running a program, versus with the browser, you're just opening up a tab on your computer and following some instructions on screen. For the browser setup, we are only allowing people to contribute to this if you have not contributed via the CLI for the inner setup. If you have contributed via the CLI for the inner setup, you do not qualify to contribute to the inner setup via the browser. This is only for people that have not had the opportunity to contribute to the inner setup. And to curate this, we've actually instituted a form. So if you want to contribute and haven't had the opportunity, please fill out the form. It's linked here. So yeah, and like I said, on December 1st, we will start processing people and having them go one at a time so they don't have to wait in the queue. And the reason we wanted to do this was there were some people spamming the inner setup specifically with bots, and we wanted to try to avoid that and give everybody an equal opportunity to receive an NFT. One thing I will say is that additionally, if you've already contributed to the universal and the outer setup, not the inner, and you want to do the browser, you can, but you'll be deprioritized because again, we at least want to get everybody who has not gotten a single NFT to get one of them. So you'll sort of be at the bottom of the list. And yeah, there's an announcement on Discord, which I've linked here, which you should definitely read through, from Alex, which has more details on this and kind of everything that I just spoke of right now. Okay, so moving on to slide 15. Now we're getting into the incentivized testnet. So I think this is probably what most of you have been waiting for, and obviously what we're really excited to share with all of you. So just to set the stage here, as everybody knows, right now, so testnet 2, which is the incentivized testnet, is currently running a calibration period. So this actually started back on November 15th, last Monday. And this calibration period is scheduled to continue running until Monday, November 29th. During this calibration period, there are no incentives. The purpose of this calibration period is to basically stress test the network to figure out where there are issues, and also to, take a deeper dive at, some of the parameters and incentive mechanisms that we baked into the system. We encourage everybody to participate in the calibration period. Again, we know you probably have to expend, a decent amount of resources to do this, but it has really been beneficial for us in making some of these changes. And as I announced on Discord, we did have a protocol bump, right? And I think because we had this calibration period, it was actually instrumental in allowing us to figure out what changes needed to be made with that bump. So again, keep running your node on the calibration period. It's super helpful for us. And yeah, if you want more details on this, specifically, I've linked the announcement that I posted last week, which I think is really important. Okay, but now moving on to the incentivization period for testnet 2. So what do we mean? Like I said, calibration period ending on November 29th. On November 30th, that's when the incentives will actually commence for testnet 2. And basically from November 30th until January 15th, the incentives on the testnet will be fully functioning and operational. So this is a period of 10 weeks that the incentivized testnet will last. And for current instructions on running a mining node, again, check out the SnarkOS GitHub repo. Everything you need to know is on there. One thing I'm going to say is if you start running a mining node and you run into issues that just have to do with like the testnet itself, not necessarily you like failing to connect or something like that, you should file a bug report on the SnarkOS GitHub repo. And if you need walkthrough details of how to actually do that, I've also posted that on Discord and announcements. But in short, you basically just go to issues and then there's a template in there for you to actually file a report. So just follow that template and we're happy to assess all of that. For any other questions that you have in terms of like troubleshooting, you should just post them in our testnet support channel on Discord. So I just wanted to point that out because I think it was getting a bit crowded in Discord in terms of troubleshooting stuff versus actual issues with the program itself. So yeah, and then actually looking at the incentives. So basically, what are we trying to do here? So what we're trying to do is reward people via block rewards earned on testnet 2. And these rewards will be redeemable for Aleo credits at mainnet launch, which is currently slated for Q1 2022. We don't have an exact date for mainnet launch, but essentially when you earn testnet tokens, like from this incentivized testnet, those will then you will be able to redeem those later on mainnet. Just two things to point out is that to obtain these rewards, you will be required to perform KYC. And additionally, if you're a US or Canadian citizen, you must prove that you're an accredited investor. We actually just launched a blog post. Unfortunately, I didn't put it in the slide deck yet. Maybe I'll do it afterward. But if you go to announcements in the Discord here, I believe Alex posted a blog post, which will outline everything I'm saying now, but also give you more specifics about the KYC and to prove you're an accredited investor and all these sorts of intricate questions. So definitely check that out. But those are the two main points you should be aware of. And just at a high level, what's the ultimate goal of this? We don't want to, basically the goal is we don't want to bootstrap a network dominated by industrial mining operations, right? We want to have this incentivized testnet so that we can create an incentive structure that benefits all participants, right? So larger players, but also smaller players that are running their own individualized hardware. So that's the high level. And there's sort of three things we want to achieve with the testnet. One is to ensure that our protocol works and is as intended and is secure, maximize participation in the number of mining nodes, and then fairly distribute tokens to all participants, like I kind of just mentioned. And then moving on to slide 16, so just looking at some of the numbers. So the total credits being distributed is going to be 15 million Aleo credits, which is equivalent to 1.5% of the starting supply. And then 10 million Aleo credits will be allocated for all miners, and then another 5 million Aleo credits for the top 100 miners. And we'll be getting into that shortly. And then sort of looking at like how we're going to distribute these tokens, we're using a quadratic mining method. And basically what does this mean? It means any miner who successfully mines and confirms at least one block will earn 500 credits. And the miners who successfully mine and confirm more than one block will earn an additional multiple of Aleo credits calculated by the square root of the number of blocks mined. You can see sort of the formula here if you want like a visual of that. And then we've included a table which showcases the expecting mining rewards for different numbers of blocks mined. So yeah, as you can see, it's like first 1 to 3 blocks, you can get like 510 credits, next 48 blocks would equate to 520, etc., so on and so forth. And then just moving on to the last slide here, slide 17, before we open up for questions. So looking at the mining rewards for the top 100 miners, which I mentioned, basically, idea here is, like I said earlier, we want to be able to recognize smaller players, but also these larger players who will be developing novel hardware and software to mine. We do recognize that these contributions are essential for the long-term security of the network. And so there will be special prizes for the top 100 miners who mine the most number of blocks on Testnet 2. And there will be an ultimate grand prize of 1 million Aleo credits awarded to the top miner. So if you look at this list right here, you can see first place gets the grand prize of 1 million credits, second place 500,000, third place 250,000, fourth place 125,000, then fifth place through 100 place, the remainder of the credits. And then just a short disclaimer, I kind of already touched on it, but for claiming rewards, you will need to prove ownership of the account private key corresponding to the claim miner address. And then again, you'll have to complete KYC. And yeah, after the 10-week period, to see those rewards on mainnet. So yeah, that's kind of the high level. Again, there is a blog post which details all this information much more in depth. But yeah, for the purposes of this call, we wanted to at least highlight some of the main points. And so with that, I think we have plenty of time for questions. So maybe before I do that, I don't know if Howard or Sam or anybody else on the call has anything else that they maybe want to add that perhaps I missed during the discussion before we open it up for questions.
I think just to chime in here real quickly, one of the aspects that I want to touch on is in terms of just answering, why did we design it this way over, kind of, you could design it however, into other formats. And the main thing to really call out here is that the intention of this design is to create an equitable opportunity for all of the community members, especially folks who have been a part of this ecosystem since Testnet 1, for example, to have a fair chance at claiming mining rewards as part of this supply. And the rationale is that if you mine even just one block, on this testnet, you will get a fixed amount of 500 credits, or really 510 credits based on the payout equation, just for your contribution. And we want to emphasize that this is really to make sure that everybody has a fair chance at being a part of this and has a fair chance at getting a stake in this network when it launches. And I think the second point to add is that we've designed it in a way to disincentivize Sybils. And so because of the KYC process, just know it's one account is one address is one person. You can try to game that, and just know that the KYC process is bounded. In addition, if you're going to try to game it on other mechanisms, know that the way that the top prizes are constructed is to make it so that, well, if you have that type of mining resources to try to Sybil, you're better off trying to earn one of the top prizes than trying to Sybil attack. And so with that in mind, I'm saying this to let you know that our intention is to get as many people in this ecosystem to earn a reward, to be able to KYC, to be able to get a block on the network, to say they've contributed. And we want to make sure that as many people can be proud about the fact that they've done this. And ultimately, that's the goal of this work. And so if you think there are ways that we can improve on our front, we're always open to suggestions, to feedback. But nonetheless, the intention of this is to really do that. And then for the folks who are aiming to develop specialized hardware, to build mining pools out of this, and also to write even better implementations of SnarkOS than what we've put out. The top 100 prizes are designed to incentivize you in order to earn even larger outsized rewards, to basically earn rewards for your hard work. And so just know that the reason that we have these top prizes is so that if you're really trying to aim for the top and to be number one, we are designing the system to incentivize you to try to be number one. And so for all parties, we hope that this strikes the right balance between folks who are in it to try to say I've mined one block at the least, and also folks who are in it to say I want to mine as many blocks as I can. We want to make sure that all folks here have a chance to basically be a part of this network and be a part of this community as we go live.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Howard. I think, yeah, there's one individual who wanted to come up and speak, so I'll invite them. Hopefully they can get up on stage. Hey, how's it going?
Hi, everyone. This is Gordijnhoofd here. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I just went through the blog post, and I first of all think that it looks very promising. Although I had one question, maybe for you, Howard. The fact that every person that mines at least one block gets rewarded 500 credits, and suppose that there are, say, that every block gets mined by a distinct address or a miner. How do you sort of ensure that it's mapped one-to-one to this 10 million reward? Isn't it sort of possible to go over it? Or, I don't know. I think that someone did a calculation that, let's say if you have 20k distinct nodes, then you could be above, you could be exceeding that. So,
Yes,
have you thought about it?
That's a great question. So the short of it is, during this 10-week period, there's only going to be, and don't quote me on the exact number, I need to go back and check, but it's about 200,000 blocks. And so irrespective of the number of addresses, there's only so many blocks that are going to be available during this period to start. That already bounds the number of addresses and the number of unique participants we can pay out to. The second point to make is that irrespective of the number of nodes that you run, you're only going to be able to KYC one account for one person. And so if you can find 20,000 people to KYC with you, congratulations. You will get that, that group of people technically will get the payout. But in practice, if you've gone through the work to even mine 20,000 blocks and get 20,000 people distinct addresses and a distinct KYCs, I guarantee you that your hardware is probably in a position where you could just actually take the 20,000 blocks and earn one of the top prizes, which will pay out more than just 20,000 people times 500 in this case. You'll like I guarantee you from this kind of structure, it's like I've yet to see in any ecosystem so far a KYC attack of 20,000. Typically, it's usually 100 people or 500 people that are trying to do this, and we've designed it so that the incentives are so that the top 100 will be basically paid out more on that front. And by the way, like if there are unclaimed rewards, we may bump things up as well in terms of what individuals are getting, but and what top prizes look like. But at the moment, we're keeping numbers fairly low to keep it safe and make sure that everyone has a fair chance at earning rewards here.
Okay, thank you very much. That answers the question. So the number of blocks is limited during the incentivized testnet. Okay,
Correct. The number of blocks is limited, and then also if you were trying to, game it and you can mine that many blocks and you have that much mining power, you're probably better off spending it to try to mine it onto one person to basically earn one of the top rewards.
Okay, great. And then one other question. The testnet 2 was supposed to be 10 weeks, so starting from 30 November, I think that won't end the 15th of January, if I'm not mistaken. Could you guys correct me on that?
That was a typo, and it's just been fixed.
Yes, I
Thank
believe
you very much.
It should be in February. Apologies about that.
Yeah, February the 8th, I think. Okay, great. Thank you very much for answering these questions.
Absolutely. Thank you for the wonderful questions. They're very helpful.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll also update the slide with the date on that. Yeah, sorry for that. I was basing it off of our blog post. Okay, cool. So let's go to the written questions. Okay, so somebody was actually, so this is actually asked before, but maybe I'll just bring it up again. So some people were asking about the GPU implementation for the testnet. I know Alex responded to GVS fans in here about it, but I don't know if Howard, you want to add anything onto that, like if it will be available or like what the status is or what people should know.
Yeah, just to say with confidence that there will be a GPU implementation available. We are first off encouraging community members to implement it. We would love to see contributions from folks, and we want to give folks who are already working on it whether it's on their own or with others, a chance to fairly mine with their implementation on the network, to test it, to validate it. Nonetheless, within 4 weeks in, we will have a release as well for anyone to use. And we think that it's a very important aspect that we have a GPU implementation available and fairly made, readily accessed by all folks, because we want to make sure everyone has a fair chance and a competitive chance at mining blocks and earning rewards here. So we will be putting one out there. But to start, we want to encourage community members to develop their own. We know of folks who are already working on these things, and so we want to give them a fair chance at trying out their technology on our stack. And once we've given that opportunity and given a fair chance, we will put out an implementation for everybody to be used if no one else has put one out there. With our work right now, we're basically trying to encourage as many people to submit and open source their implementations first, so that we have more implementations of miners out there for others to try and use. It not only helps in terms of growing the ecosystem, but also it gives us alternative implementations of Aleo to fall back to in case there's vulnerabilities in any one version. We want to make sure that the network is as diverse and as stable as possible. And so this positions us in a great place to basically encourage growth and encourage others to try and develop on top of our network.
Cool, thanks for that. And we don't have to go through it, but I think some people were making some suggestions, because I think Alex mentioned that there would be a certain timetable for when they were trying to get the GPU implementation out, but we can definitely look through that stuff later and take it into consideration. Okay, so there's some other written questions, but we have some people on stage. Maybe I'll start with the people on stage. So maybe we can start with Ivan first. If you just want to ask one question, and then we can go to the other two individuals. That would be good. Are you there, Ivan? Okay. Maybe they're having some issues with their mic. Okay, maybe Dennis, do you want to go while Ivan's trying to figure out their setup?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Thanks, Anthony. My name is Dennis from Amsterdam. Hey, I have a question related to the GPU mining perspective, because I have been trying to set myself up for becoming a miner in the long run, and as far as I could tell, it was more efficient to go for a build that has a more beefy CPU, so to say, compared to trying to get beefy graphics hardware. I would like to get some more info on what I can expect with regards to the viability of using, let's say, like a efficient but powerful CPU miner at the time when GPU mining is also possible, because I've seen other instances where it tends to be more effective to use a GPU miner. Maybe
It's a great
some words on
question.
that.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Finish. Sorry.
No, that's actually it. So I'm really curious to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, and it's also great to see you, Dennis. I think the short of it is this. First off, with regards to CPUs, we have noticed, and it's not consistent, but we have noticed that Intel versus AMD versus ARM makes a very large difference in terms of performance. As you know, with cloud providers, Intel and AMD are the two most common offerings that are available, and we have seen that AMD performs significantly worse than Intel, in the sense that there hits a limit where throwing more cores on an AMD architecture only marginally improves node performance. And so I think from that perspective, if you're benchmarking, I would highly suggest you use an Intel to compare against that. I'd also say ARM-based architectures and M1 type chips recently have shown significant improvements. We have not been able to test at scale, the actual performance of those, but on consumer desktops, we have seen that it outperforms even Intel in that context. Now, to get it into server grade, that's another question. It's an open question at the moment, but we've seen that this has been a very common pattern. So I would first off say that the type of CPU that you're using seems to make a very large difference. And the typical performance behaviors for why this happens is, depending on how much branching logic your code has, it tends to impact the type of performance that different architectures support. So in the Intel case, they happen to support instructions that have high branching patterns to be far more performant because of the predicting branching sequences over, say, an AMD architecture. But if it's coming down to less branching behavior, actually AMDs tend to perform much better. And so I'd say, on the first part, that the CPU itself actually makes quite a big difference. Now, to add on, in terms of GPUs, we've also seen a variation across GPUs that the type of NVIDIA chip that you use can also determine, can significantly change the expected performance as well. And that's naturally so, because GPUs come in all shapes and sizes and flavors. One of the things that I've noticed is that the enterprise GPUs tend to be better at compute-based, like arithmetic-based operations than the consumer-grade ones. That's a natural that's a natural expectation as part of scientific computing requirements for those chips. But I'd say that the type of GPU benchmark on will also likely impact the behavior there. I think right now, with the implementation of elliptic curve arithmetic that we have in Snark VM, we've seen that the performance is roughly 2 times that in speedups over a CPU. However, again, it varies depending on the architecture you're using. So if there's a specific setup or a specific configuration that you'd like to discuss offline, we might be able to help debug or triage some of that over Discord or in DMs. But I'd say on a high level, the GPUs should be expected to be somewhere around anywhere from 1.5 times to 2.5 times in terms of the performance bump at current optimization levels. There's been a lot of talk within the ecosystem, just broadly in ZK, of folks who are designing GPU-based implementations that are anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5 times a CPU's performance. And in practice, we expect that folks through this incentivization period will likely find optimizations to get themselves up there. But that's the predicted and kind of expected behavior out of these at the moment.
Okay, clear. Yeah, I think that was super helpful. Maybe one suggestion to the team with regards to communication. I think it's good to for community members like myself who kind of made an upfront investment to try and get themselves set up for participating in the network. It would be good to have like a more long-term perspective on where it's going and whether I should expect the viability of my participation to change, right? Because I'm unlikely to optimize my hardware or change my hardware as the network and the clients become more optimized and find new implementations. So yeah, that's it. But thanks for the info.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you. And I think for one, we'll add an FAQ section on the README to talk about the hardware differences that I just laid out. So that way it's clear for everybody. I think the second point to make is that's why we very much have kind of disproportionately given anyone who mines even a single block or has been able to lock in one block the opportunity to get a large payout of 500 credits over just the kind of base function itself of the number of blocks square rooted. And the goal there is to make sure as many people have a chance to mine and to earn rewards. And then for those who really do end up, specializing into professional or kind of industrial scale mining operations, we'll give them top prizes. But, we want to make sure that as many people early on have a chance to mine at least one block as possible. And so, the GPU implementations release will also be timed around that to make sure that we're giving a fair opportunity. And we want to make sure that we're trying to keep the playing field level for as long as we can, so that way everyone has a chance to get in, as part of this incentivized network.
Very
That's
cool.
awesome. Thanks, Howard.
Yeah. Sorry, I just want to make sure we have 14 minutes here. I want to make sure everybody can get their questions. So I think we'll go with Killa again, if you want to ask a question. But yeah, I guess both for people asking questions and Howard, when you respond, we can just try to be succinct so we can get as much in as possible, because I know you're super busy, Howard. But yeah,
Absolutely.
So go ahead, Killa again, if you want to ask away. Or they're also having. I see they unmuted, but okay.
Just come back to them.
Yeah. Okay, Ivan, did you figure out your setup? Let's check back in with them really quickly. Okay, I guess not. I see people are unmuting.
Still can't hear you, Ivan.
Okay. If you, Ivan and Killa again, if you want to type your questions, maybe that would be more effective, because I'm not quite sure why you guys aren't able to chat. But Evgeny, do you want to try going then?
Yeah. Hello, guys. Hi, Howard.
How's it going, Evan? Thank you for all the coordination efforts so far.
Well, good. I'm glad to be here, and we are close to the start eventually.
Absolutely.
We have 3 quick questions. One is, will there be blockchain restart?
Yes. Short answer is yes, there will be restart. The restart will happen over the weekend.
Cool. Second one, are you working on RPC documentation? We found one community member found the node status RPC in the source code.
Correct.
We use it.
Correct. All RPC endpoints except get node state has been included in documentation. We will link those to a proper developer documentation site as well in the source code. If you go into source network RPC, source RPC documentation, you'll find it in there, the public endpoints. Get node state will be documented properly after the weekend. We are still updating what is being returned by that to include new things, and so that specific endpoint is not stabilized yet.
And the third one is the difficulty. How will the difficulty be adjusted during the network? Will it be rising like every week or every day?
Yeah, so the difficulty will be dynamically determined based on hashing power. And so if blocks are being mined faster than 20 seconds, the network automatically adjusts, just as in Bitcoin and Ethereum. It is a dynamic difficulty adjustment, more so than manual adjustment. So, we want to make sure that the network does not diverge. If we hard code in the difficulty, the network will diverge. And so this is just basic protocol that we will keep it dynamic.
Is it per block, or what's the length of time for the adjustment period?
Correct. It's on a per block basis. So the calculation is specifically you take the previous block timestamp, the current block timestamp, you determine the amount of seconds that have elapsed, and then you use it as a multiplier on the difficulty from the previous block to update for the new difficulty. If it's at 20 seconds, the multiplier is 1. If it's above 20 seconds, it's you're increasing, or sorry, you're decreasing the difficulty. If it's below 1, then it's you have to increase the difficulty.
Thank you for going into details.
Yep.
Cool. All right, Killa again. I think I heard muffling from your mic, so do you want to see if it works?
Oh,
There we
sir.
go. Yeah, we can hear you now. Go ahead and ask.
Okay. I want to ask, what is the key of improving the efficiency of mining?
The short answer is that there's really 2 aspects. One is hardware, one is software. On the hardware front, using better equipment will likely net you better performance. On the software front, writing more efficient implementations will also net you better performance. I imagine most folks here will be trying different configurations. We will put out, suggested early configurations, and as the previous question from Dennis was regarding CPUs and GPUs, we will provide a TLDR on that on the FAQ on the README as well.
Oh God, I appreciate that. But if I have 3 machines using the same wallet, but am I triple the possibility of mining?
It does not increase per se. If you have those 3 machines, technically pooling the resources into one, it could net you for a larger performance, therefore a better chance of mining more blocks. However, a lot of this is the point of the network is to test and see what the properties look like. So in theory, having your resources pooled into one should net you far better performance. We are currently evaluating whether splitting it into 3 could net you a better advantage or not, but in theory, it should not.
Oh, I see. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Okay, let's go with El Turco. Want to mute yourself?
His server muted. Could
He's
you
still
try to mute?
server muted.
Okay,
Oh
I'm
my
sorry,
God.
man. Okay, just type your question on Turco. I apologize. Well, I thought it was fixed, but Okay, Greaves, low fee validation.
Hi there. I was just wondering how big a factor uptime has in like rewards, if that's a factor, or if it's just a matter of having better hardware gives you a better chance of getting blocks.
Yeah, given that this is a work-based system, a succinct work-based system, blocks will become the primary determining factor. Like I know in staking that uptime has a significant part as part of your availability for voting and whatnot. But in this design, blocks are the primary driver, so there is no reflection with regards to uptime there.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Ivan, do you want to give it one more shot? Or not? Okay. Maybe I'll just move on to the written questions then.
Yeah, for out of stage questions, that one that I responded to, Anthony, I think that's a very key one.
All right, go ahead, bring it up.
Yeah, so it's Fibble1 says, I understand it's not possible to mine with more than one node using the same priv key. I have two questions. Is that correct, that it is one address per person? And further, are there any technical optimizations you can share to increase block production that are not running multiple nodes? So yeah, it's like, to what extent do we have some kind of pooling ability if you do like have some kind of multi-rig setup?
Yeah, I don't know if Sam if you already wrote a response on that, I can add some more color to add on.
I didn't. I don't know this information.
Okay. The short of it is this: if you're running it with the software that we currently have today, you can, like it's one miner, one address. There is the option to design your own mining pool, where you split the nonce attempts that you're using for mining for one account across multiple machines, meaning you're having multiple mining computers connected to one client node on the network that is your actual miner on the network, in which case this is a traditional mining pool design that every one of these machines is targeting a different subset of the range of possible nonces to basically grind on. We certainly encourage folks who want to design mining pool type designs in this construct to do that. But out of the box right now, we have not provided that. The folks who typically would have the resources to design something like that are likely going to be industrialized operations. And, while later on in the ceremony, we may introduce these functionalities, to start, we want to give everybody who is an individual miner a fair chance at mining a block. And so these types of operations currently are not available in there, but we will add RPC endpoints like a get block template, which is typically what miners use, like in Bitcoin, to basically then spawn off their own mining pools if they want to split it across multiple machines in that regards. However, that requires an actual custom networking protocol like Stratum to be baked into your own system, which means you're at that point already running your own operations like at scale.
Elaborate on that one. So as previously discussed on previous calls, running like two miner nodes with the same address would be considered as basically running one node in a sense that if one miner mines one block and the second miner mines one block to the same miner address, they will be counted like two blocks on one miner and will be recalculated according to the table in the slides.
Correct. So they will have two disjoint histories from some common point at which they're mining off of. Only one of those nodes' histories will get added into chain, assuming that they're competitive. However, if there's another party that has, your two machines' resources summed together, let's say you have one 16-core machine and one 16-core machine, and maybe they have a 32-core machine, and they're mining at double your speed. I mean, in practice, probably it's not double, but like, you understand what I'm saying, that they're more powerful than you. The likelihood of their chain history being the one added into the actual chain history will likely, have much higher probability, assuming their networking is good. If they're connected to enough peers who have all synced with them, that means that their history will get added in likely before yours, in which case both of your nodes' attempts will have been null in that sense. Because it will not have been powerful enough to be fast enough and network and send that state to enough peers to convince them that your history is the longest history. Does that help clarify it?
Yeah, so basically, more money on one hardware is always better.
Correct. More resources on one hardware is expected to be far better, and assuming that it is performant in networking to all other peers, its state in a timely fashion, all peers will switch over to this longer chain, at which point it means that your node will have had far better advantage by being one single node versus split into two nodes.
Thank you.
Hey,
I think
hi Howard.
we're low on time here, but I think Evgeny typed a question. Sam, can you read it out? I know you were looking at it. Okay, never mind. He said he can't. Let me see if I can find it.
Hey, can I ask a question?
Okay, man, there's a. Okay, his question is. My question is that I know a lot of miner companies will join the testnet, and I will use VP's server, just like others. Is it possible to attack during the testnet by the other mining companies to the regular people? How you can prevent this, because I have seen this during other testnets.
Yeah, well, first off, this stack is very different from any other L1 that's out there. So in terms of mining companies, if they're using ASICs, like, for SHA or for any common hash function that's out there, they won't have an advantage on our network. And so miner attacks should not be prevalent on that level of attack. If they're on FPGAs, ASICs, we've already ruled those out for the time being. If they're on GPUs, they have some added advantage. However, the advantage is not significant until they have developed proper pooling systems for that, because they would need to design one for our network. And so we don't expect that in the short term here. We expect that in the long term of the network to be absolutely the case, just based on the amount of interest we've seen so far. But we don't expect that during this period. And I would be very impressed if there was one that was done, say, within the next 4 weeks. The last point to make is that on the CPU fronts, that's where I think there's a reasonable cloud market that's fair game for everybody to tap into. AWS provides and GCP and DigitalOcean provides significant resources for this, so we think that that's a fair advantage for all players here.
Awesome.
Hey,
Yeah,
Anthony, can you hear me?
Yeah. Sorry, I was going to say
Yeah.
we'll give you an opportunity since you're on stage. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So Howard, you mentioned the advantage of GPU is probably 3 to 4 times that of a high performance CPU. This is typically far less compared to what you would typically expect on SHA type algorithms. Is that correct?
Yes, the algorithm we use here is a zero knowledge proof, so it's an advantage to have a specialized SHA hardware.
If I'm mining Bitcoin or Ethereum that uses a SHA algorithm, the advantage of GPU or ASIC is far higher, like 10, 20x, maybe 50x with respect to CPU. Whereas with the zero knowledge algorithm that you have, you're saying it's probably the order of 2 to 3x.
Correct.
Okay. Another, this is not a question, this is a request. Is it possible to postpone the start date by a couple of days, given that it's Thanksgiving travels and, at least I'm returning back home on Tuesday or end of Monday. So great if you could start by December 1st instead of 30th, 1st or 2nd.
I think at the moment the dates are fixed. However, if you start later, it should not necessarily change your ability to contribute, assuming network difficulty remains around the same ballpark. So you can start later than the start date. But I think for the majority of folks that are on the call, this date is one that has been the preferred one for folks.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm not sure what your schedule's looking like here, Howard. If you got to jump, I think maybe we can just reply to the rest of the text questions.
I can stay on for 10 more minutes. I have a call at the 45 mark, but I can stay on for 10 more minutes if that helps.
Okay. Well, yeah, we
Yep.
might as well. All right, maybe I'll try one more time since Ivan's on stage. I'll let you try one more time. If maybe you fix your mic situation. If not, that's fine. Maybe I'll just give you a second. Okay, he dropped. All right, so I guess that's a no. Okay, trying to see. Sam was answering a lot of questions here, but let me see if there's anything in particular. Let's see. Can you please share the amount? Okay, can you please share the amount of supply which will be granted to ambassadors, simple content creators for their work from November 3rd? Okay, so for the ambassadors program, basically the short story there is that I think we're still trying to determine like what percentage of the tokens we're gonna set aside for people that participate in that program. So I will have to get back to you on that. But basically, one thing to note is that the same rules apply for like testnet in the sense that if you are a U.S. or Canadian citizen, you will have to be an accredited investor to receive those tokens if you participate as an ambassador, unfortunately, because yeah, it's essentially the same kind of process as us like giving people testnet tokens. Okay. Can someone post a link to the mining instructions? Okay, yeah, I think we did that. Do we need to stop and restart the miner between November 29th and 30th to do some updates, or will this be done automatically? I believe it'll be done automatically, but Howard, I don't know if you want to mention anything else.
Yeah, no, it will be done automatically. So if you're running the /run client.sh or run miner.sh scripts, you will be automatically rolled in. However, for those who have not used the scripts, and please use the scripts, those folks will be disconnected, unfortunately.
Okay. Cool. Okay, people were asking about the dates. Yeah, we corrected that. Okay. Well, okay. So somebody said, let's see here. 1, 2, 3. 10
Ivan
million.
typed his question in. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Read it. Go ahead.
Yeah, it says, sorry for issues. Could you tell, will we have time to change server when GPU will be implemented? How will this be counted since there should be one KYC for one server?
Correct.
I'm not. Yeah, go ahead.
It won't change fundamentally. Like again, this is not a stake-based system, so there's no concept of a leader set that you or a validator set that you have to stay a part of. You can come and go at any point. When the new code is available, you can leave the CPU version you have running while you spin up the GPU version, and you can deploy it onto a new instance, and then when you're ready to go, or if it's on the same machine, you can turn one off and turn it on. Like it won't fundamentally change the story there because again, this is not proof of stake.
You gotta free your mind from the proof of stake prison of thinking, Ivan.
I don't know, Ivan, if it is a proof of stake concept that you're wondering about, but just know that in case it were that just know that there this is on a work-based system you can join and leave at any point. You can turn on and off the node at any point, and if you need to, you can test that the GPU version is running and perform it at that time too.
Okay. What's the process for security bug bounties? Security bug bounties. We only have the feature bounties program right now, but if you find anything, like
We
let
talked
us know.
about the potential for dog-earing some amount just in case someone found like really game-breaking bugs that we could like use as a counter incentive to them kind of completely breaking things. Yeah, I don't know, Howard. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, to be frank, like we obviously want to support this. I think at the moment we have not seen a very good implementation, at least from what I've seen so far, of a good security bounty program here. Just in the community in general, like from different ecosystems and L1s out there. But if there is a construction that people have recommendations for, we're all ears on that front. And more so that if you do find one in the meantime, like we are more than open to compensating. But currently it's a case-by-case basis. If you email security@aleo.org, that's where we handle most of the inbounds on this front at the moment.
Okay. Okay, I understand it is not possible to mine with more than one node using the same private key. I have 2 questions. Is it correct that it is one address, one person? I think yes. That's what we said earlier. Further, are there any technical optimizations you can share to increase block production that are not running multiple nodes, which is not possible?
Like I said prior, having better hardware is the primary optimization. So if you have better hardware or better software, you will have a stronger advantage. But without better hardware or better software, what you have is what you got. That's where we want to incentivize. That's why the incentivization structure is designed so that anyone who mines at least one block will earn a reward. And we want to make sure that every single person who attempts this has a fair chance at earning one reward here.
Okay, also, I'm just going to say this because a million people are asking. Okay, so the dates for the incentivized testnet are November 30th until February 15th. It's been corrected on the slides and the blog post, but just to reiterate that for everybody. Okay, what is the consequence of running multiple miners for the same testnet address? Is that bad? I think we kind of already answered that. Okay, what is the system requirements? If you go to sorry, somebody's trying to call me. What are the system requirements? If you go to the SnarkOS GitHub repo, you can find the requirements there. But again, I think we've kind of covered that again as well already. But yeah, everything you should need to know is in there. But just looking at it, let's see. Okay, so the minimum requirements, we're saying CPU 16 cores, 32 cores is preferred, RAM 16 gigabytes of memory, 32 gigabytes is preferred, storage 128 gigabytes of disk space, and then network should be 50 megabits per second of upload and download bandwidth. Again, those are minimums though, so if you want to be competitive, you will probably need more than that.
So last question for Howard, I think, just before he has to bounce, is someone asked what the vesting or locks are going to be like for mainnet rewards for these people.
These should be claimable when mainnet launches, and so as far as I know, there should not be any specific vest or locks on these. However, we're also currently evaluating the landscape. The regulatory landscape is fast changing, and at least from my understanding, there should not be any restrictions on that. However, I will put an asterisk that things are subject to change if regulations change. However, at the current moment, we don't anticipate there to be locks on these.
Are there any other questions in there? Like I'm trying to catch up.
We'd be able to export, import keys if we switch hardware. So I guess that's based on what our key management situation is going to be come November 30th.
If you are using you'll have to specify the mining address when you turn on the miner. If you specify the correct mining address, it will mine it to if you specify your mining address, it will any blocks that are mined in that case will be.
Don't need to move a private key.
Yes, you should not need to move a private key. And please, when you generate an account, save the private key, save the view key. Those are the 2 keys that you want to save. The view key lets you view your transactions. The private key lets you spend your transactions. Technically, having the private key is enough to get you the view key. However, I anticipate most folks will have questions about how to derive each, and so I would ask you to save those 2 at a minimum.
Will there be a SnarkOS call this week? Because we still have questions like debugging things, making sure your miner works correctly, making sure it syncs up correctly, and because we still have height being halted on some miners and nodes.
We can set one up for next week. At the current moment, I think that like the work that we're doing is primarily to get those issues resolved, and so rest assured that when the new network resets, these things should be remedied, and any height differences are likely going to be either intentionally baked as part of syncing reliability logic, or it's going to be your miner has now advanced beyond, and so fundamentally speaking, I think for this week, like we'll be tightening these things up. But if we want to do a sync next week, we can coordinate.
That would be great. Let's do it next week if it's possible.
Sounds great. Thanks, Evgeny.
And last one, will there be instruction changes? Like currently, you're like forcing a rebuild of SnarkOS each time you restart the miner. Will it be still the case, or will we have the release 2.0 and stick to it until further updates?
Yes, so there will certainly be a release that will be coming out. The question will be how soon do we want to cut the release? And the open question really is based on, well, just that if people find like software performance issues, or if there are further changes that need to be made for design reasons, then we will keep the current structure. However, as soon as we see that it is stable and development has stabilized, then we will cut the release and make that available. And so that should simplify the compilation and installation pipelines. It'll also add new approaches to install, and we will update the README to reflect that.
Okay, cool. I'm going through these questions. I think Sam's replying to a lot of them, so hopefully that's fine. Sam, is there anything you missed in here?
Oh, I think we got all the really killer ones. Elf, is there one credit and token for Testnet 2? Yes. The thing you're mining in Testnet 2 are Testnet tokens. Those are not the same thing as what mainnet credits are going to be. And yes, the top 100 miners will get at least 30K tokens. That's kind of the participation prize for making it to the top 100.
Okay,
Howard,
maybe.
Can I ask you one more question before you hop off? Or
yes, absolutely, go for it.
It's a quick question regarding. It's not really incentivized testnet related, but due to the Leo stand-ups that will not be held anymore, I had the following question. Is Aleo sort of aware of the lean proof verification tool? And
yes.
If so, are they planning, or has it been internally discussed to sort of verify the Leo programming language in the same way as Starkware did with their Cairo language? I think that would be huge to ship before mainnet or even at mainnet.
Absolutely. We've evaluated this. We're looking at it actively. A huge part of the discussion is whether we want to use that as a stack. There's different trade-offs that are made in the level of guarantees and the performance properties of those. And so it's absolutely on a principled basis something that we are looking at very deeply. The open question is the level of security that it's actually giving us. There's one level which is on the front end language side that it gives you better assurances on, but it's not necessarily as refined on the back end, because ultimately, in our case, what makes this so performant and powerful is the flexibility with respect to gadgets that we can design and use. And validation via the ACL2 processes gives us a strong assurance of the lower level circuitry, whereas the lean designs give you a better assurance on the higher level properties. And so there might potentially be a combination in terms of that design, but I will say at the moment that it's definitely an open question, and it's one that we're looking very deeply into.
Okay, nice to hear. Very interesting. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. All right. Well, at least for me, I need to hop. So, yeah, Anthony, if you wanted to continue, feel free to. But first off, thank you everybody for joining on this. Really looking forward to the Incentivized Testnet, and looking forward to any questions and comments. Please file bug reports as you see them come in. We will tackle them in real time.
Thank you, Howard.
Thank you, Howard. Have a good day.
Okay, cool. Sam, is there anything else you want to cover here? I'm not sure what your thoughts are.
I've just been trying to answer everything directly. I don't know if we want to duplicate anything for people maybe watching on YouTube or something. Someone asked, have we revealed tokenomics? Howard gave us a rough sketch a couple community calls back. Basically, 1 billion is the initial starting supply, so that's like the pre-mine. And then there's going to be a high initial emission rate that will be continuous for 4 years. We don't know what that rate is yet. Then after 4 years, there will be a standard-ish halving cycle. I believe Howard said that it's like a 1 year halving cycle as opposed to Bitcoin's 2 years. So every year after year 4, it's going to have, and then it's going to have down to some tail emission. And what that lowest tail emission is going to be is also unfinalized. But yeah, it's not going to be. There is no capped amount. It's one of those things where it's going to, as they say, trend asymptotically down to zero, which, you know, in the grand scheme of things, is virtually the same as having a hard cap. But that tail emission, there's a lot of benefits that you get from that, even though you kind of lose the meme of quote unquote hard money that that projects like Bitcoin offer.
To that. Anything else in there, Sam? I know you've been responding.
No, I think that's it. And yeah, like if there is something that we miss, like always feel free to get in touch with any of us directly. Will the storage requirements increase throughout the testnet? I think 128 gigs is almost certainly going to be enough. Yeah, I think that the cap for each of our blocks is 10 meg. So if we assume 20,000, then that means, I mean, just going on pure block supply, assuming that they fill up, like that's what is that? It's going to be fine.
Can you at least give a rough numbers of how high the initial rate will be? 50% on the 1 billion?
Nowhere near that high. God, no. I don't think so anyway. Yeah. It's an interesting question. I really don't know for sure because it hasn't been finalized. I know that this is one of the main things that looks like Howard are kind of hashing out on the back end. But I can no promises, but like 50%, that seems very, very high. But we'll have to see.
Okay. Maybe one other thing I'll mention is there's also another correction. So for the top 100 mining rewards, so first place, 1 million credits. Second place, 500,000 credits. Third place, 250,000 credits. Fourth place, 125,000 credits. Fifth place, 62,500. And then sixth place through 100 place, 31,250 credits. Before, I think we said fifth place to 100 place was 31,250. We just corrected that. It's corrected on the blog post and on the slides. I just wanted to point that out. That was something Howard actually caught as well. Okay, I'll bring this person up on stage. I mean, I don't have anything till I have 10 minutes, so I might as well just stay here. Also, really quickly, El Turco, I've been trying vigorously to get you server unmuted. I don't know why this is happening. I don't know how to get rid of it. I've tried to troubleshoot. It's very bizarre to me. My suggestion would be to maybe leave the server, and then rejoin and go through the caption again and see if you rejoining would fix it. Because honestly, I don't know what else is going on here.
Or worst case, just make an alt.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Try either, or try the thing I said and maybe it'll work. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting off track. Okay, we'll do things. Okay. Well, all right, here we go. Archie75, how can we help you today? You have to, I think you're still muted if you're trying to talk. Okay, well, I guess that's not going to work. Maybe one other thing to mention is that once we're satisfied with how the incentivized testnet is running, I actually want to do a live session, maybe on Twitter Spaces or something, just to I don't know, get people up. But I'll share more details on that if it comes together. I think it would be kind of fun. Okay, I guess Archie's not going to ask a question, so yeah, they just left. Okay. I don't know, Sam, is there anything else you want to bring up? Otherwise, I'll probably just end it here.
I think that's about it.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, thanks everybody for joining. Super excited to get everybody running on this testnet, and everybody on this call is going to make it. If you join this call, you're going to make it. Wanted to put that out there for everybody. But yeah, looking forward to the next time we have a call, and yeah, see you on the other side.
Just quick last one.
Oh, sure.
I'm sure I can't find any info, but I think we discussed it some time ago. What is better, like Intel or AMD? Question is straight
For
in the chat.
CPU?
Yeah, like
Yeah, I'm not sure. My guess is like just it's probably Intel.
yeah, I remember we had this guess, but I can't find any proofs for this.
I'm not sure if anyone on the team would know. I can ask some of the engineers for you. But my guess would just be to go with Intel.
Yeah, I think
Fabiano-
Howard mentioned that as well during this call. So
Did he? Oh, perfect. There you go.
Somebody else to ask Sam is Fabiano, because he's been like stress testing everything right now with all his hardware.
Yeah, but just to confirm, for GPU, it's probably going to be NVIDIA only because just, if you do want to try to do GPU, just make sure it's NVIDIA.
Okay, then with that, I will officially end it. So thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it, and yeah, looking forward to getting out the Ambassadors Program and a bunch of other stuff, along with the Incentivized Testnet. So a lot of cool things going on. All right.
thank you
See y'all
very
later.
much.
Have a good one.
Goodbye, guys.
See you guys.